Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If the last episode had your hearts racing with danger-filled threats and a honeymoon postponed indefinitely due to dark conspiracies, then today, let's put those corporate battles aside for a moment. Today, we're stepping into a scene of strange tranquility. But within that peace, another storm is brewing. A storm named Destiny. James, the noble young heir, and Diep, the resilient Cinderella. After the wedding of the century, what is their life like? Have the storms truly let them go? And what shocking news did the doctor break to James at the hospital? Why was he so stunned that he dropped his phone? Did the villain's plan B succeed? Or did a miracle happen? Hold on to your hearts. Grab some tissues. And don't forget to like and subscribe right now to join us in this story of tears and smiles. Time flies. 3 months have passed since that fairy tale wedding. To avoid the drama and pressure of anonymous threats, and to keep Diep's spirits high, James made a decision that shocked the elite world. He didn't take Diep to Europe, no lavish parties. He took her back to the poor countryside where she was born, now transformed into a spacious charity home. Here, they lived simply, like a true newlywed couple. In the early morning, James no longer wore Italian suits worth thousands of dollars. Instead, the CEO of the royal group was seen in a worn-out t-shirt, pants rolled up, wading into the mud. Today was a beautiful sunny day. The charity home's rice fields were ready for harvest. The scent of ripe rice filled the wind. Diep, with her conical hat tilted to hide her delicate face, was swiftly cutting rice stalks. Looking at her now, no one would guess she was the wife of a trillion-dollar tycoon. She was still the old Diep, hard-working, down-to-earth, and relatable. Not far away, James was struggling to load rice sacks onto a tractor. Sweat soaked his broad back, his face smeared with mud, but his smile was brighter than ever. "James, be careful or you'll fall." Diep called out, her laughter ringing like silver bells. James wiped the sweat away, winking at his wife. "You're underestimating your husband. These sacks are nothing compared to the piles of paperwork at the company. I could carry the whole world, let alone the rice my wife planted." The kids from the charity home ran around them cheering. The scene was picture perfect, a place where money and fame meant nothing compared to love. James realized this was the happiness he had been searching for. Not stock numbers, but the peaceful smile of the woman he loved under the setting sun. But it seems God always wants to test us. Just when the laughter was loudest, darkness struck. The sun was high overhead. The intense heat of the summer noon made the air stifling. As Diep bent down to bundle the rice, she suddenly felt a cold chill run down her spine, despite the sweat pouring down. Her head started to spin. The golden rice stalks before her eyes blurred and spun like pinwheels. "What's happening?" Diep mumbled, rubbing her temples. She thought it was just heat stroke from overworking. She tried to stand up to breathe, but the moment she rose, a wave of nausea rushed from her stomach to her throat. Ugh! Diep covered her mouth, her limbs going weak. "Diep, what's wrong?" James, a few meters away, heard her retching. He threw down the rice sack and dashed toward her. Diep waved her hand, trying to force a smile to reassure him. I'm fine. Just too much sun. Get me some water." But before she could finish, her world went black. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed. "Deep!" James screamed. He caught her just as her slender body hit the mud. "Deep, wake up, don't scare me." James patted her cheek. Her face was deathly pale, bloodless, her lips white. Her breathing was weak and shallow. Terror seized James. Images of threats, poison plots, the enemy's plan B. They all flashed in his mind like a horror movie. Did they strike? Did they poison the food, the water? James didn't dare think further. He scooped Diep up and ran like the wind toward the pickup truck parked on the dike. "Butler, call the hospital prep. The ER immediately, hurry." "Entry Nikin de Dampier." James's scream echoed across the field, making the children cry in fear. The truck sped off like an arrow, tearing through the wind, leaving behind the rustling rice field that sounded like a worried sigh. Inside, James drove, with one hand gripping Diep's ice-cold hand with the other. "Hang in there, wifey. You promised to walk through this life with me. You are not allowed to let anything happen. If something happens to you, I will level this entire world." The Royal International Hospital, equipped with the most modern technology, was in chaos today. Chairman James carried his wife straight into the lobby, his mud-stained clothes a stark contrast to the clean, luxurious hospital. But no one dared to laugh, because his eyes looked like those of a wounded beast. "Where's the doctor? Save my wife, hurry up." Diep was wheeled straight into the emergency room. The glass doors slid shut and the red light flashed on. James was blocked outside. He slid down the cold wall, burying his head in his hands, clutching his messy hair. Time dragged on, every second, every minute, heavy as lead. The overwhelming smell of antiseptic only made James more nauseous and anxious. Mr. Huan, James's father, received the news and rushed over immediately. Seeing his son sitting on the floor, covered in dried mud, his heart ached. "James, calm down, son. Diep is blessed and resilient. She survived so much hardship in the past. A little heat stroke is nothing to her." Mr. Huan put a hand on his son's shoulder, trying to reassure him, though his own voice trembled. "Dad." James looked up, his red eyes brimming with tears. "If she's been harmed, if our enemies made a move, I will never forgive myself. I brought her back to the countryside to avoid the storm, but I failed to protect her." "Don't talk like that," Mr. Huan scolded gently. "We checked security thoroughly. Poison is impossible. Trust the doctors." 30 minutes, 1 hour, then 2 hours passed. The emergency room doors remained shut tight. A terrifying silence engulfed the hospital corridor. James paced back and forth until he nearly wore through the tiles. He prayed something an arrogant man like him had never done before. He begged to trade his entire fortune, his own lifespan, just for the safety of the woman lying inside. Finally, the emergency light turned off. The doors opened. The head doctor stepped out, beads of sweat on his forehead, pulling down his medical mask. James and Mr. Huan rushed forward like a whirlwind. "Doctor, how is my wife? Is she okay? Was she poisoned?" James fired questions, rapidly gripping the doctor's shoulders and shaking him hard. The old doctor winced, slightly in pain, but maintained his composure, gently signaling James to let go. He looked at James, then at Mr. Huan. his eyes holding a strange expression, serious yet twinkling with an indescribable joy. "Chairman James, please calm down. The madam, she is out of critical condition." James let out a sharp breath, his limbs going weak, nearly collapsing. "Thank God. So, what does she have? Why did she faint so suddenly? Was it overwork?" The doctor cleared his throat, adjusted his glasses, and calmly said a sentence that made the world stand still. "It is true that she suffered mild physical exhaustion from working in the sun. However, the main cause of the nausea and fainting isn't an illness." He paused for a moment, smiling. "Congratulations, Chairman. Congratulations, Mr. Hoan. Your family is about to welcome a new member." James froze. He stood rooted to the spot, mouth agape, but no sound coming out. "What did you say, Doctor?" James stammered, disbelieving his ears. "I said, the madam is pregnant. The fetus is 6 weeks old." Pregnant? That word rang in James's head like a holy bell, clearing away all the dark clouds. Diep is pregnant. He's going to be a father. James turned to look at his dad. Mr. Hoan was also gaping, then burst into loud laughter, slapping his thigh. "Oh my God, I'm going to have a grandchild. I'm going to be a grandpa. The ancestors have blessed us. The ancestors have blessed us." But the doctor raised a hand, signaling them to quiet down since this was a hospital. He continued, and this time his voice lowered, filled with astonishment. "But sir, what surprised us and made us keep you here for a thorough announcement isn't just the pregnancy." James's heart skipped a beat again. Is there something wrong with the baby, doctor?" "No, nothing bad." The doctor shook his head, handing James the ultrasound result. "Look here, this isn't just one heartbeat." James took the paper, his hands trembling. On the black and white screen were two sacs. James gasped. "Exactly." The doctor nodded in confirmation. "It's twins. Furthermore, based on the HCG levels and the ultrasound, these two fetuses are developing incredibly strongly, which is rare for the first few weeks. This is truly an exceptionally healthy pair of twins. Twins. This news was truly an explosion. For a massive corporation like the Royal Group, having an heir was already a huge celebration. But this was a pair of twins. James felt his chest about to burst with happiness. From extreme anxiety, he fell straight into a pit of sheer joy. Tears streamed down his mud-streaked face. "Twins. Diep. You're amazing," he mumbled like a child. However, the doctor added his voice, serious again. "Because it's a twin pregnancy, the pressure on the mother's body is significant. Her constitution is naturally slender, plus working in the fields under the hot sun led to the drop in blood pressure and fainting. From now on, she needs absolute rest, special nutrition, and must avoid all stress. Absolutely no more heavy field work. I got it. I won't let her lift a finger. Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much." James shook the doctor's hand vigorously. James tiptoed into the VIP room. The room was quiet, filled with the scent of lilies. Diep was lying on the stark white bed, her eyes still closed. Her complexion was a bit rosier thanks to the IV fluids. James gently sat down beside her, taking his wife's small hand and placing a soft kiss on it. "Silly wife," James whispered, his voice choking up. "Carrying 2 little lives inside you without even knowing, and still going out to carry rice sacks. You're going to give me a heart attack." He gently stroked Diep's flat stomach. Right there, 2 tiny hearts were beating, 2 sprouts of life crystallized from their stormy love growing day by day. That sacred feeling melted James, the man of steel, in the business world. He remembered the days when Diep was shunned, criticized for not being of equal social standing. Now she was not only his wife, the chairman's lady, but also the great mother of his children. I'm sorry I didn't realize it sooner. I promise from now on, I will protect the 3 of you with my life. Whether it's Plan B or any enemy, I will crush them all to pave the way for our children. Diep stirred slightly. Her long, curved eyelashes fluttered and slowly opened. She blinked, staring at the stark white ceiling, then turned to look at James's face, still smudged with dirt, but overflowing with happiness. "Honey." Diep whispered, her voice still weak. "Where am I? What's wrong with me? Do I have a terminal illness?" Seeing his wife wake up, James hurriedly wiped his tears, smiling radiantly. "Silly, you're not sick. You're just on a very important mission." "What mission?" Diep looked confused. James leaned down, whispering the earth-shattering news into her ear. "You're going to be a mom. And not just one, but 2 angels are right here." Diep was stunned. Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach. Tears of happiness rolled down her cheeks. She, an orphan who once craved the warmth of a family, was now about to have a complete family of her own. While the hospital room was filled with joy, outside through the glass of the corridor, a different scene was unfolding. A man wearing a white lab coat and a mask covering his entire face walked past Diep's room. He didn't look inside, but his hand lightly touched the door handle, slipping a tiny piece of paper into the crack before walking away very quickly. James, with the instinct of someone always on high alert after so many upheavals, suddenly felt something was off. He stood up and walked to the door. "What's wrong?" Diep asked. "Nothing, just going to give the bodyguards some instructions." James opened the door. The hallway was empty, but his eyes stopped at the small piece of paper wedged in the door crack. He pulled it out. He opened it. It wasn't a threat. It was an ultrasound photo, but not Diep's. It was an old yellowed ultrasound photo, dated 25 years ago, and the mother's name on it was Diep's mother's name. Below the photo was a scrawled, handwritten note. "History always repeats itself. Twins, a blessing or a curse. Ask your father-in-law about the other child." James froze. Diep's mother also carried twins. If Diep is one of those children, then where is the other child? And why does this faceless figure know this secret? Could Plan B not be targeting their lives, but rather a horrifying truth about Diep's origin? Something that could destroy this blossoming happiness. The hospital room door closed, separating the joy inside from the extreme confusion just ignited in James's heart. Will Diep's twins be the start of perfect happiness, or the key to opening a Pandora's box full of past tragedies? The joyful news of Diep's pregnancy was an emotional explosion, but that mysterious note has planted a vague fear in our hearts. Who is the other child? Does Diep have a lost twin somewhere? Or one standing in the shadows of hatred? Our story is turning into an unpredictable, thrilling mystery. The VIP room was quiet, save for the soft hum of the air conditioner. Diep lay on the bed, her hands still resting gently on her lower abdomen. It felt magical. In there, not just one, but two hearts were beating in rhythm with hers. She smiled a radiant smile, chasing away the pallor on her face. Ly is going to have siblings, Diep whispered, her eyes sparkling. She thought of little Ly, the first adopted child at the charity home, the cheeky kid always demanding, "Mommy Diep, make a baby for me to play with." Surely when she hears this news, she'll jump for joy. Ly won't have to play alone anymore. She'll become a big sister, acting all grown up. Thinking of that, Diep's heart warmed. But then the smile on her lips faded, replaced by an anxious sigh. She looked out the window, where the afternoon sky was turning gray, signaling a summer storm. The rice field, Diep mumbled. The charity home's rice field was being harvested. The sunny weather these past few days was fine. But if that storm hits tonight, the fields will flood, and months of hard work by her and the children will go down the drain. Those few acres of rice were the main food source for the entire charity home for the next 6 months. The door opened. James walked in carrying a thermos of hot porridge. He had managed to wash the mud off his face and change into clean clothes. But the dark circles under his eyes betrayed his extreme worry. Seeing his wife frowning at the window, James hurried to put the thermos down and took her hand. "What's wrong? Are you uncomfortable somewhere? Should I call the doctor?" Diep turned to look at her husband, her eyes apologetic. "Honey, I'm fine. It's just, I'm worried. The harvest isn't finished, and it's about to rain. If I'm lying here, who will lead everyone? If the rice soaks in water, it'll sprout, and the kids will suffer." James listened to his wife with a mix of affection and frustration. He gently flicked her forehead. "You silly goose. You are carrying 2 princes, or princesses, of the royal group. Your assets right now are more precious than 1,000 hectares of rice. Why are you worrying about such trifles? But that's everyone's sweat and tears." Diep pouted. James sighed, then looked deep into his wife's eyes, his voice becoming unusually firm and warm. "Listen to me, Diep. From this moment on, your world is only allowed to shrink down to our kitchen and our home. Heavy lifting, making money, shielding us from the rain and sun. I've got it all covered." He gripped her calloused hand, a hand that had endured so much hardship. "I'm not some trust fund kid who only knows how to sign papers. Have you forgotten I'm the husband of Farmer Diep? I'll take care of those rice fields. I'll mobilize more people, rent the most modern harvesters. Before the rain pours, the last grain of rice will be safely in the warehouse." "Really?" Diep asked, her eyes welling up. "Scout's honor." James held up 3 fingers. "Your only mission right now is to go home, rest, cook me a delicious meal, and keep the 3 of you healthy. Can you do that?" Diep nodded, tears of happiness rolling down her face. She didn't need her husband to be a superhero saving the world. She just needed him to be a sturdy mountain for her to lean on in weak moments like this. James drove Diep back to the charity home as dusk settled. The cozy little house nestled amidst the fruit orchard. James carefully helped Diep into her room, tucked her in, then instructed little Ly, be a good girl and watch over Mommy and the babies. Okay, Daddy has to go to the field for a bit. Be careful, Daddy. Little Ly nodded obediently. James stepped out of the house. The warm smile on his lips vanished the moment the door closed. His face turned cold and murderous. He pulled the mysterious note from his pocket. Ask your father-in-law about the other child. The words cut into his mind like a knife. James looked up at the pitch-black sky as lightning began to streak across it. He wasn't just going to the field to harvest rice. He was going out there because he knew the person who sent this note was lurking somewhere in the shadows. He was watching his family, and James wanted to lure him out. At the field, an atmosphere of urgency prevailed. James had called to mobilize 10 combine harvesters from the neighboring district. The roar of engines drowned out the thunder. James didn't just stand around giving orders. He rolled up his sleeves, rushing in to carry rice sacks with everyone else. He wanted to use physical labor to suppress the vague fear of the twin curse. Around 9 p.m., the rain began to pour in sheets. Hurry up, everyone, just one row left, James shouted through the rain. Suddenly, screech! Bam! A harvester, running smoothly, suddenly jerked to a halt, its cutting blade striking something hard, snapping in two and flying out. A sharp shard of metal whizzed past, grazing James's cheek, leaving a bleeding scratch. Chairman, are you okay? The bodyguards disguised as farmers rushed over. James touched the blood on his cheek, his gaze icy. He approached the broken harvester. The driver face drained of blood tremblingly pointed at the cutter bar. Young master, look at this. Jammed between the blades wasn't a rock or a tree stump. It was a large iron bar, deliberately planted in the paddy, cleverly camouflaged under the ripe rice. And tied to that iron bar was an old rag doll slashed to pieces. Written on the doll's chest in bright red letters, "One, lost one, remains." James clenched his fist until his nails dug into his flesh. This wasn't an accident. This was a warning. The enemy knew Diep was carrying twins, and he was cursing that of the two children, only one would survive, just like the secret of Diep's mother's twins years ago. Seal off the scene! James roared in the rain. Search a 5-kilometer radius. He hasn't gone far. While James faced the threat in the field at home, Diep was enjoying the artificial peace her husband tried to build. She listened to James and didn't go out. She went to the kitchen, preparing a hot meal to wait for his return. The smell of new rice was fragrant, the aroma of crab soup filling the small kitchen. Diep chopped onions, humming a tune. Little Ly sat nearby, picking vegetables, occasionally pressing her ear to Diep's belly to whisper to the babies. Mommy, when will Daddy come back? It's raining so hard, Ly asked, looking out the dark window. Daddy will be back soon, sweetie. Daddy is Superman. This storm can't stop him. Diep smiled to reassure her child. Click! A strange sound came from the back kitchen door. Diep startled and turned around. Who's there? No answer. Only the wind whistling through the cracks and the rain pounding on the tin roof. Diep thought the wind had loosened the latch. She wiped her hands on her apron intending to go relatch it. "Mommy, don't go out!" Little Ly suddenly screamed, her voice terrified. Someone is peeking in." Diep froze. She looked where Ly was pointing, through the steam-fogged window. Glass under the dim yellow light of the back porch, Diep saw a silhouette. The person wore a black raincoat, covering their head, standing motionless in the rain. But what sent a chill down Diep's spine wasn't the sudden appearance. It was the eyes. Even in the dark, when the lightning flashed, Diep saw those eyes staring right at her. A gaze both familiar and strange, filled with extreme sorrow. And on that person's wrist, where the raincoat sleeve was slightly pulled up, Diep saw a bracelet. An old silver bracelet engraved with a peony flower. Diep dropped the knife in her hand, clawing. That bracelet was identical to the one her mother left her before she died. The bracelet she kept hidden in the cabinet as the only keepsake of her origins. Why did that stranger have it? Who are you? Diep summoned all her courage to call out. The stranger didn't answer. The person slowly raised a hand, placing it on their own stomach, a gesture as if to say they too carried a pain or a life. Then very quickly, the person turned and vanished into the pitch-black rain, swift as a ghost. Diep hurriedly opened the door and rushed out. Stop, wait. But outside, there was only the white sheet of rain and muddy footprints leading toward the Cajaput forest behind the house. Diep stood rooted under the eaves, her heart pounding. She had a feeling. The person just now wasn't an enemy. It was a blood bond trying to find its way back to her. Right at that moment, James's pickup truck screeched into the yard. James jumped out, soaked to the bone. The creepy rag doll still clutched in his hand, hidden inside his jacket. Seeing Diep standing at the back door, her face pale as a sheet, he panicked and rushed over. Diep, what happened? Are you hurt? Diep tremblingly grabbed her husband's arm. James, someone was just standing here. That person had a bracelet identical to my mother's. James froze. The bracelet. The note about the other child. The doll marked, "One lost, one remains." And now a stranger wearing the family heirloom. Everything was piecing together into a terrifying picture. James helped Diep inside and locked the doors tight. He decided he couldn't hide it from her any longer. Silence was the very thing that could kill them now. Diep, stay calm and listen to me. James placed the mysterious note and the doll, covering the gruesome text on the table. I received this at the hospital today. Diep picked up the note. Ask your father-in-law about the other child. She was stunned. My dad, but he passed away. Maybe there were things he didn't tell you. James mused. Do you have any other keepsakes besides the bracelet? Diep thought for a moment, then ran to the bedroom, pulling out an old moldy wooden box from the bottom of the wardrobe. This is Dad's document box. I never looked closely at its secret compartments. James opened the box. Inside were just some yellowed birth certificates and an old diary. He flipped through the pages. The beginning was just about farming and harvests. But on the page dated Diep's birthday. The handwriting became shaky. August 15th, Today is a fateful day. My wife gave birth to 2 daughters, but oh God, the Vuong family arrived. They said, according to village custom, twins are a bad omen bringing disaster to the clan. They forced me to choose. I can only keep one. The other must be sent floating down the river. Diep screamed, covering her mouth as tears gushed out. Floating down the river, James continued reading. I couldn't bear to kill my own child. I secretly gave the older baby to a widow in the neighboring village, asking her to take the child far away. I only kept the younger one, naming her Diep. I carved 2 peony bracelets, one for Diep, one for the other child, hoping one day they might recognize each other. Forgive me, my poor child. The truth was as clear as day. Diep has a twin sister, and that sister didn't die. She survived, carrying that bracelet and the hatred or pain of abandonment for 25 years. The person at the window was Diep's sister, but why appear right when Diep is pregnant with twins? And who sent the "one lost, one remains" threat? Is she seeking revenge because Diep lived happily while she suffered? Or is she trying to warn Diep about another dark force? The Vuong family mentioned in the diary. The night deepened and the rain fell harder. The house sank into a heavy atmosphere. James and Diep sat together in silence. The secret was too cruel. Diep sobbed. She's alive. How much has she suffered? Why didn't she come in? Does she hate me? James held his wife tight. We will find her. If she suffered, we will make it up to her. But I'm afraid someone is using her pain to attack you. Knock. 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 Dry knocks echoed in the desolate night. Not the wind. Human knocks. 3 distinct, slow taps. James signaled Diep to stay put. He grabbed a fruit knife from the table, tiptoeing to the main door. Who is it? James called out. Outside silence for a moment. Then a woman's voice spoke up. It was hoarse and cold, but it sounded 90% like Diep's voice. Open the door, little sister. I brought gifts for my nieces and nephews. James looked through the peephole. He was so stunned he dropped the knife. Standing outside under the dim porch light was a woman with a face identical to Diep's, like 2 drops of water. But she wasn't holding a gift. She was holding a gas can, and her eyes burned with insane hatred. She smiled a twisted smile. History must repeat itself. Only one can live. The real nightmare has begun. The lost twin has returned not for a reunion, but to burn it all down. Is that truly Diep's sister, or an imposter in the enemy's plan B? What will James do to protect his pregnant wife and unborn children from this deranged copy? And the Vuong family, the mysterious force in the diary, how powerful are they to force parents to abandon their child? The answers will be revealed in the next episode, The Flames of Hatred and the Ancient Family Secret. Don't let James and Diep fight alone. Hit like right now to give them strength. Subscribe to be the first to witness this life and death confrontation between the twin sisters. Thank you for watching. Good night, and remember, lock your doors tight tonight.